Thank you, Misha. So are we good to go ahead and get started?
We're good to go.
Okay, great. Hi, good afternoon, all, and welcome to our session on where do I begin? Popular, potent, and beneficial areas to start for quality course design. Just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping over here. Microphones are automatically muted. Webcam is not necessary. You can say hello in chat, and also ask your questions in Q&A. And this presentation is being recorded and will be made available with an email sent to all our attendees. So, as our university embarks on its plan to implement a formal QA strategy and process, we thought that it would be timely to share experiences from QM member institutions who have embarked on their own quality assurance journey. We would like to be able to share some prevalent starting points and also observing from their experiences what were the popular, potent, and beneficial areas when taking on quality assurance activities. Presenting with me here today is Sarah Asher, who is our UK Online instructional designer, one of a team of, I do believe, maybe 5. Am I correct, Sarah? Maybe 6? And Sarah is also a QM Higher Education Certified APP QMR online facilitator. So for our agenda, we've broken up what you call this presentation so that you'll see us addressing quality assurance and course design and its intent, what was popular, potent, and beneficial, options at UK Online, and resources to access if our instructors over here would like to consider embarking on this journey. And then we're going to field some questions and answers. The goals for this presentation is to give us a sense of quality assurance activities at the national level surrounding design and delivery of online instruction. Hopefully with us sharing with you these quality assurance activities that were undertaken by our QM member institutions, it might give us maybe a little bit of encouragement, and if not incentive, or maybe an idea or two to consider maybe what we could take on in our QA course design with our courses or programs. And then another one, which is going to be equally important, a goal, is to at least give you a good overview on where you might be able to go for support or even to reference resources that we would have over here at UK Online. So how did the QM member institutions even start on it? Some member institutions were sort of like, putting their foot or their toe in the water, probably about 2018. But by and large, a number of them really found themselves thinking long and hard about QA when the 2020 pandemic occurred. Because what was happening was they found themselves sort of like wrestling with trying to make sure they could distinguish between what we were seeing as emergency remote learning and then online learning. Because just like the University of Kentucky, we had just rolled out our UK Online programs, and we found ourselves wrestling and struggling to try and at least distinguish what we were doing in UK Online opposed to what was happening with the rest of campus when it was having to default to emergency remote learning. So these other QM institutions then started asking themselves questions. What are our quality standards for our online courses and programs? How do we show it? How do we assess? And with them asking those questions, they then looked back into what they had with their QM resources, and they found that, okay, look, we've got some pretty good quality assurance tools and resources over here with QM, and maybe thinking about what QM is advocating, and with their 20 years of experience in the market with regard to quality assurance, definitely we'll be able to identify some things that we can take on and implement within our institution. So let's go ahead and see what they were considering. With regard to a popular starting point, a number of our QM member institutions started off with self-reviews. Why? The natural course that was happening was when they were going in and looking at what they had for QM tools and resources, the APP QMR training, along with certifications that QM had, seemed to be good starting points. So the APP QMR training is basically that QM rubric. The comprehensive rubric touts about 43 SRSs under 8 general standards. And then among QM certification training, the Teaching Online certificate was one that was very, very popular with a number of QM member institutions. One of them at least did go ahead and they had their provost of their university go ahead and invest in making sure that all their instructors who were teaching online, that they were able to take this certificate, and the institution paid for it. So also with these self-reviews, what happened was there were sponsors and champions that were naturally coming out from those institutions. And most of these proved to be either a provost or a dean, and they were championing and supporting the use of QM tools and resources, and also finding a little bit of funding or incentive dollars to help with that. The self-reviews also were successful because what happens is you had these post-training support and activities that these QM member institutions ensured that their faculty had. So you had your instructional designers or your course designers whom, after the instructor had gone through the rubric training, that if they were trying to go ahead and do a self-review, those designers were at hand to be able to guide the instructor if they had questions about maybe some SRSs, some clarifications over there, or maybe how they needed to gauge or at least mark certain course components if they met or if they did not meet what you call this, the SRSs that were there. And if they did not meet, what could they do to improve it, and any help that they needed in making those revisions. And then another fourth important thing that these member institutions were doing was there was this good habit of implementation and iteration, or at least recognition of it. So what happens is after they made those revisions that may have been recommended from the rubric, they at least took that course and they put it back out into the field for about a semester or two. They made sure that they were getting student feedback, whether it was from a mid-semester feedback, so that would be a formative feedback, or something from a course evaluation feedback. And then they were able to iterate and do some continuous quality improvements on that course. And then some of these courses also then determined that they were sitting in a pretty good spot after maybe 2 or 3 semesters, that they then went up and they said, let's go ahead and see what would happen if we went for a formal QM review and certification. Another area, and this one is for the potent area where our member institutions, the QM member institutions, decided that they were going to go ahead and maybe wrestle with, is the area of universal design for learning. Now we call this potent, and because when you really think about it, because UDL is largely supporting learner agency, a lot of good course design, or at least best practices in course design, will always harken back to UDL. And QM also has about one or two pretty good UDL course certifications. So these member institutions, if their instructors ended up taking it, or if the instructional design team at their institution underwent those UDL certifications and were able to train internally within the institutions, that was where the sweet spot happened. So they were able to figure out what were going to be compelling areas for design attention. And then they were also thinking beyond just accommodations. So the pandemic, during the experience of that pandemic, they realized that learners also had other challenges that they were grappling with that was, once again, beyond just your physical accommodations or limitations that might be there. You had, the ability to focus and the distraction that might be there. Sometimes where were the students attending courses? Even if they were in their homes, was it so noisy because they didn't have a dedicated space to be able to attend class? What about internet connections? What about equipment that would require some dexterity that maybe the student may not have due to an accident or an impairment that they have? So once again, they were thinking beyond accommodations. So with QM, they are huge advocates of the CAST, what you call this, guidelines. So under CAST, you have opportunities, three areas of opportunities: engagement, representation, action, and expression. The multiple means of representation was a definite area of focus by our QM member institutions. And they gravitated to this area of UDL because it felt like there were low-hanging fruits that they could easily address and take on. And it also helped them comply with maybe some federal regulations, like maybe what might be out there with ADA and everything of that sort. So definitely the multiple means of representations was a popular place to start, followed closely by multiple means of engagement. In this presentation, I'm going to be concentrating on the multiple means of representations. This particular section maps beautifully to the general standard 8 in the QM higher education rubric, and 4 SRSs in that and under that general standard are the areas of interest. And these 4 areas we are able to recast into 5 norms of accessibility that I've listed over there: hyperlinks being descriptives, PDFs being accessible, images having alternate text, videos having captions and transcripts, and audio files having transcripts. Once again, accessibility norms that we were already familiar with, but now we knew, or at least those member institutions knew, if their faculty were familiar with it, now more than ever, they could drive hard and be a little bit more tenacious about it and just nail these components within their course design. The third area, LMS templates. So to be very, very specific, when we talk about learning management templates, we're talking about a skeletal structure that's pre-built in the LMS of the institution. This particular template is going to provide support resources for instructors and course designer. And then it's also going to reflect best practices in navigation, design, and layout. So what were the merits of these templates? What our member institutions, the QM member institutions, were identifying, I do believe they identified 4 merits: the consistent learning experience that they were going to be able to create for their students. They were going to be able to at least leverage some efficiencies. So once again, even though there was a little bit more of a lift when they were trying to create these templates, because you would have to identify what you wanted in them and everything else. Once it was done, you were going to be able to at least share it out with, let's say, that particular program or that particular department. And this was especially useful if sometimes you had junior faculty that were coming in, and so you could onboard them pretty quickly with the template, or adjunct faculty that you were having to depend on, once again, that you could onboard. And then it freed up time for the course instructors to maybe just concentrate on other aspects of the learning experience, like, developing the engaging content and activities, or thinking about learning outcomes, or activities that you were going to build into your class. Another area was learner engagement. So over here, learner engagement was something that QM flags, what you call this as a best practice that's really worth pursuing. So you're going to find that this is something where you can hypothesize that, okay, if I've built my template out this way, this is what I'm going to get from learner engagement. And this is also an area where a number of the QM member institution members, when they've gone ahead and they've implemented their templates, they are definitely monitoring this learner engagement. They've been collecting and trying to track some data that maybe would verify if this indeed has happened. And then another merit of the LMS templates has been, for some of these member institutions, because they have partnered with maybe industry that is in their region, what happens is they saw it as an opportunity to figure out how to align accrediting and industry standards. And so this is one area where those templates were wonderful for them, because they made sure that they could incorporate those standards, those industry standards. And another thing too that was pretty good was, if they piloted a course or two, they were then able to take this back to, let's say, the company's HR department or whatever it is, to turn around and showcase the diligence or the organization that's prepared, that's there behind their coursework or their program that they are giving over to the company. So with the QM rubric and LMS templates, the QM rubric is very helpful when they identify the 11 standards and two of which are essential standards that they have. And member institutions were actually they didn't necessarily do all 11 standards. What they did was, depending on where their faculty were, where the instructors were in taking this on, the instructors actually had the prerogative to decide which standards they could at least adopt. Most of them took about 4 or 5 that they would quickly go ahead and say, these are the ones that we know we're going to take in. And then after that, they would add on as they iterated their course. I wanted to share an example of an LMS template that one of our member institutions did, the QM member institutions did. It was a College of Nursing. They had 10 instructors, and these 10 instructors worked together to develop their template. And as you can see, they identified 5 things that they knew they wanted to have on their template. And they went ahead, they implemented, built their template in that manner, and this was the outcome. They were very pleased with the consistency that they had. They were absolutely thrilled at the framework that they could leverage, or at least, just, follow. And then they just had to concentrate on course content. And it just helped so much, especially with any coordination that those 10 instructors had to do amongst themselves. And now I am going to hand off this conversation to Sarah so that she can now go ahead and talk to us about options at UK, and how it relates to the other 3 things that I shared.
Hi, yes, thank you, Catherine. So when looking at the resources that UK provides their online instructors, let's first focus on the self-review. We have, as Catherine has put it, condensed the Quality Matters rubric, 7th edition for higher education, into 18 specific review standards. And our team of instructional designers can assist with providing workshops on what they are and how to use them. And this can be used for both designing quality courses from the start and regularly reviewing courses. And this is an example of the UKO course quality rubric, again adapted from the QMH Higher Education rubric, 7th edition. And under each of these standards, there are specific review standards. So there are 8 general standards and 18 specific review standards. And along with this, we also have created a self-review template for instructors to use. This again is a condensed adaptation, and this can be used regularly when reviewing your course, and can be used along with feedback from students and peers. So I think we have an example of the worksheet. So this is the UKO rubric worksheet, which has been adapted from the QM rubric, and is actually quite nice because it follows along with a lot of the steps that users must take for an official QM course review. And so a lot of these specific pieces and a lot of the language will be the same. So when instructors are familiar with this, they are that much closer to being able to complete an official review with Quality Matters. And so there are different sections to the rubric worksheet, a part in which the reviewer can include evidence of what they find in the course, an area where they can make suggestions for improvement, and a guiding area here at the bottom in blue that helps the reviewer kind of stick to the specific review standards. Okay, I'm going to pop back here. So not only do we have the self-review template, the workshops that we can do to show you how to use it, but we also have consultations afterwards to help support. So just as Catherine was saying earlier, we want to make sure that once you have this tool and you're using it, if you run into any barriers or walls, we'll be there for you. And so this, again, can be while you are reviewing your course or while you're making the adaptations that you've decided to make to your course. And we have a request form for these consultations on our UK Online Faculty Resources site. And then bringing back those 5 norms of accessibility that Catherine mentioned, the hyperlinks must be descriptive, PDFs must be accessible, images must have alternate text, videos must have captions and transcripts, and audio files must have transcripts. I'm going to show you how you can use 2 tools within Canvas to make that happen. So I'm going to pop over into just a development course that we have, in which we have content set up that do not meet many quality assurance standards. And so we're going to show you how to use both Ally and UDoIt. And both of these can be turned on within the settings page, and we have instructions for that. Of course, if you need assistance with this, you can also let us know. So with Ally, you'll come into a dashboard page that's actually quite lovely, even though the accessibility standard isn't very high. And you'll notice right away that they have options for fixing content. And we recommend starting with the easiest issues to fix. And all you have to do is hit that start button and then follow the on-screen prompts. And then we have, as well as Ally, You Do It. And You Do It has a similar dashboard. It's a little simplified. You'll access it by clicking on Home after you get a notice that the course scan has completed. It'll give you a rundown of issues that are happening in your course. And then by default, easiest issues to fix are selected, and all you have to do is select Get Started, and that will take you right into fixing alt text, fixing color issues, having you add titles to pages, things like that. Okay. So we also want to remind you that upcoming in spring 2025 that we will have an accessibility and usability workshop coming up. So keep an eye out for that. And another tool that we have that Catherine really did well in introducing is our LMS template. And this is also within Canvas. Let me actually pull that back up and show you. So there are many different features of this template that will allow the course creators to quickly input content in a way that will make it very easy for students to find and to follow. So for instance, like we have this homepage, so it's a course launch page that will allow students to, or instructors to create a welcome message, set up a get started for their students. And then we have a syllabus page that's set up with prompts in which instructors can provide information about the syllabus, submission feedback, and then of course there's default information about how students can view their grades. And I want to take a moment here to talk about the course quality template that the provost has talked about, and I'm going to pop back over into my presentation to do that. Hold one second. And so this is a course proposal checklist that we have access to that faculty can also use as a resource as they're either creating content or reviewing content to make sure that basic information is there and information relating to distance learning is there in their syllabus and course as they're working through that. And I think that is kind of some quick reviews.
Yes, thanks so much, Sarah, for walking us through the resources that we have over here at the university. So hopefully we've given y'all at least something to consider about where y'all would start if you were even considering, you know, embracing some of these quality assurance activities. I would turn around and say too that with our member institutions, if there was something that I saw that underlied all their effort, is they didn't call it this, but being being a scholar of organizational communications, we call it the output of first movers, where the mantra is don't let perfect get in the way of progress. Set a reasonable plan and get started. And the way that you set a reasonable plan might be if you're even able to talk about it or maybe brainstorm with a person or two with regard to maybe what you might want to do, that is at least a good starting point. And I cannot tell you how helpful and engaging the UK online instructional designers are. Gosh, even when I saw them do their summer boot camp, and this was in 2019, and they would be helping our online instructors with their course build. And even after that, when some of y'all may have taken advantage of the virtual office hours that they had during the pandemic, where you could come in and you could ask them for stuff. Anyway, that service-oriented mindset still exists today. And I cannot tout the benefits of reaching out to them. And you can also reach out to me as the QM coordinator and program manager over here on campus. We would love to be able to talk to you, even if you're going, gosh, Catherine, how do I subscribe to Quality Matters under the university's license? Or I already have an account, but I'm never quite sure where I need to go. It's always so overwhelming. What do they have for certification courses? What do they have as reading materials and everything of that sort? That's another thing that we can help with. I know that in my activity with Sarah prepping for this presentation, she did a lovely job also pulling together resources and reading what do you call this, articles that we can reference, and we would be happy to share that out with you all also after this presentation. But once again, it can be so I guess it might seem a little lonely when you're just sort of like dealing with it all by yourself, and we would just like y'all to know that the instructional designers are here as we are, and we would love to be able to at least walk with you through this journey of at least starting on considering some quality assurance activities for course design. Would you like to move on to the next slide, Ms. Sarah? Do we have any questions with our attendees? And if we don't, Sarah, would you like to go to the next section where it might give them some contact information? Thank you, Misha. Yes. So we will stay on for another 10 minutes in case or anyone might have any questions for us. And if not, we thank you so much for spending your afternoon and for participating in National Distance Learning Week. Thank you. Thank you, Donna, and thank you, Sean. Oh, good to see you, Esther. And hi, Antoinette. Oh, thanks, Miranda. Yeah. Sarah, we'll just hang on for a few more minutes. I realized, Sarah, when I was going in and putting in the links, that for some reason, when we hyperlinked it, oh yeah, Misha, we can still, has everybody gone? Is that why you're saying you're going to log off?
Yep, I was gonna go ahead and hit enter.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks,
Did everything sound okay?
it was perfect.
It did? Okay, great. So Sarah, I noticed that